The Filmmakers podcast is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Subscribe for regular bonus content and special episodes.
The Podfix Network.
Hello and welcome. This is episode 266 of the Filmmakers podcast. I am Giles Alderson.
I'm Dom Lenoir.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for listening and joining us. Today on the show, we have the fantastic VFX director, and I'm putting those two together because when you see the Wanting Mare, you'll know why. It is Nicholas Ashe Bateman. Oh, yeah, he has made this film, The Wanting Mare.
And you will not be left wanting.
Amazing, Dom.
Amazing.
What he has done with this film, honestly, and if you see the behind the scenes, and we'll put a link to it in the show notes, we talk about it in the podcast as well. It's incredible. When you see it, you go, oh my God, and then he delivered this? Literally in a room, filming it with a green screen, and it looks like he filmed it in, I don't know, the desert somewhere, and then on a planet in the middle of nowhere. So we talk about that and
More.
and more. Tell us more, Dom.
We talk about working on The Green Knight, the benefits of working on other people's projects and collaborating, how he learnt Photoshop and became obsessed with After Effects, how he raised the money, how he found those investors, and how he set up his own production company.
He also talks about how he made his short films, how he worked with his teams to get them. He also talks about dodgy producers, why he made an Indiegogo for 20k. He also talks about mental health in filmmaking as well, digital matte painting, and what he wants from actors. He also goes into detail about the difference between 2D and 3D effects. And as Dom said, how he got The Green Knight and worked with director David Lowery. It's a beauty. Me and Dom had a great chat with him, didn't we?
We did, yeah. Plenty to chat about. Lots of very interesting. He kind of has his own system, his own style of VFX that he kind of learnt himself, and then he just got so good at it that people just started using that style for their other projects, and he found his way onto some pretty massive films in his own roundabout way. So
he did.
Do your own thing and get good at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Including the films Free Solo, Wendy, Save Yourselves, Breaking Bread, and actually his upcoming film, he's doing Peter Pan and Wendy. He's doing creature design on that, and also Snake Oil Song, his visual effects on that. He's a machine. He's a legend. It was brilliant fun talking to him, and I really enjoyed it. I am on set right now, literally not right now because I'm in a room very quietly, but I am in the middle of doing pickups on 3 Day Millionaire, and I've run into a room, and Dom very kindly, really late, has said, yeah, all right, I'll record it with you. I need to get back to set because
you're a badger? Because
I'm a badger, and so many things are happening today. And you can probably hear in my voice, I'm so tired. The fun and joys of being a producer.
Yeah, it's not all fun in the sunshine. Sometimes it's very stressful, very demoralizing, and you just got to get through it.
You do. It's so tough. Everything is, it's you. You've got to deal with it. So that's been fun. So anyway, I'll leave you on that, or maybe I'll talk to you about that next week or the week after when I've fully recovered, because I really need to recover.
He might not recover.
I might not. I might never come back. Dom, would you take over?
Well, maybe I will. I'm already doing these solo episodes. So.
All right, big time. If you had your own podcast, what would it be called? Dom Does Pods.
Dom Does Pod. The Domcast? No, there's no pun there. But the Miserable Sodcast? There we go. That'll be.
Well, for now, until that magical day happens, we shall get on with this week's episode of the Filmmakers Podcast with Nicholas Ashe Bateman, Dom Lenoir, and myself, Giles Alderson. Sit back, relax.
And maybe learn something.
Enjoy.
How's it going? Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you as well. Wanting Mare is pretty special. It's pretty stunning to watch. It's beautiful. Had you always been interested in VFX world? Was that something that, like from a kid, was that something that interested you into film? Was that your way in?
Yeah, I think so. I don't necessarily know if I understood, there are those stories of like basically everyone who was a filmmaker who grew up watching Star Wars, like got the magazines, you know what I mean? Like those sort of things where people are like, oh, how do they do this? Yeah. I don't really, I've been trying to think lately, like if that's how my brain was working. at the time, but I was completely enamored and like obsessed by the process of the Lord of the Rings.
Oh yes. Yeah.
But they so fantastically sort of, which I think is different from Star Wars. Star Wars does sort of feel like it is about visual effects technology, and the Lord of the Rings sort of felt like this whole thing, you know, of like all of these departments and everyone's firing at full cylinders. And I think that was like, I grew up doing theater too, which is like a huge part of all of this. So I think there was a circus quality to that of like, look, it's a big theater production that I really liked. And then moving forward, it obviously became possible. Well, it became clear that like there were things I wanted to do that were visual effects, but like I really came to it in a way that is bizarre, that sounds like comical, because like we made, you know, I dropped out of college. I made this movie called The Circus Animals, which was like a short. This is like 2010. And so I moved to New York and I met someone across the hall who's David Ross, who's the cinematographer of Wanting Mare and kind of my creative partner. We made this movie together. And in the end, you know, in the process of editing it, which took forever, like we didn't know anyone made movies. So we were pulling, like, I taught one of my best friends how to record audio, which I watched a YouTube tutorial for, which at the time was, you know, like 2010, it was like there was, you know, now I could be like, you could literally find a YouTube tutorial for anything. It's like almost comical, but it was sort of like, you know, there was choice. It was like B&H had YouTube tutorials that you would, how to record sound. And the most of the stuff is this is a tangent within a tangent, is their B&H headquarters in New York. They have these fantastic people who work there, who I just recently read that they now do video chats.
Right.
Have you seen this?
No.
So all the people that work at B&H who, you know, sell all this photo video equipment out of their headquarters in New York, all the people who work there are like amazing. They know everything about the equipment. So I would go as like a form of film school basically and be like, I want to I'm going to make a movie on like a 7D. And they'd be like, well, here's a T2I and this is what this does. And then I'd be like, you know, I need to record Zoom, like audio. And they'd be like, there's a Zoom recorder and this just came out. And they would like show me how to use it. Wow. And I would like write notes down and like go home and be like, okay, this is how the guy at B&H told me how to do it. Which now I would just watch a YouTube tutorial. But anyway.
And B&H, because we don't have that in the UK, but
it's not the cigarette brand.
Really?
No, and it's not like IKEA.
Oh, is there a cigarette? Yeah.
I think so.
Because in IKEA, they know how to fix everything. This doesn't work. I can't. Just do that, mate. It's
laid out very much like IKEA. It's like a mega center. Yeah.
Right, for
they don't have meatballs, sadly.
Sadly, what a shame. They could make a fortune. But meatballs for crew would be amazing. Yeah, that's fascinating because, like you say, now they've just got all that stuff on YouTube. So anyone out there listening who does want to know that and how to connect your 7D to a Zoom recorder, because sometimes some of them don't connect, by the way, and some of those microphones you buy do not work when you plug them in on the top because they've got 2 pins or 3.
It was kind of quite a revolutionary time, really. Like, I mean, it was kind of at the end of my university when the 7D sort of came in, and they're like, "Ooh, there's stills photography," and then you record the sound separately. But it is a completely different process. I mean, you have to sort of learn some settings on video camera, but a lot of the time at uni, like it's kind of, there's a lot of automatic settings you can do. Sometimes the mic's just, you know, plugged in when you hire it. That there's a lot less to learn. It's kind of like throwing yourself in the deep end, but in a way you sort of learn these photography things that can be really useful.
My cinematographer David grew up developing his own film and shooting film. It was like knowing a real magician in my mind. I was like, I have no idea how any of this works. And he's over here looking at the 7D like it's like, you know, he knows what he's doing. So, and then but the visual effects in that process happened literally at the end of it. And there was like a genuine feeling of us looking at the movie. I kept saying, there were a couple shots at the end. And I kept saying, like, wouldn't it be fantastic if you could widen these shots? And we were like, what does that even mean? And we're like, if we were to widen this shot, we would have to extend the frame somehow. How does one do that? And then it was like, that appears to be a visual effect. Right. And then I was like, well, you know, I'm really obsessed somewhat by, you know, kind of like golden age films and Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind and sort of the great artifice of these great matte paintings and studio films. And it felt like, it was like, what if it was that, like, what if we did that? And I met at the time who was the production designer of The Wanting Mare and everything else, Cassandra Baker, and she was a painter. And I was like, Cassandra, you're a painter whose work I am in love with. I have this movie that I made and we're trying to take shots in the movie and make them wider. She's like, what are you talking about? Like, I believe it would require someone to paint the rest of the frame out. She was like, oh, okay, well, one of them was somebody in an alley. And I was like, so I think you got to paint an alley. Now, what's funny about this is Cassandra was an abstract painter.
Right. Okay.
I didn't process this. I was like, she's going to give me like a Spartacus matte painting, And so Cassandra is like sending me literally like abstract bricks. And I'm like, okay, this is further complicating it. Like, but I wasn't directly like, this is not what I want. I was like, okay.
Hallucination subplot.
Yeah, I was like, abstract walls, frame that's not the frame I want. How do we do this? So then it was like, I must download a program called Photoshop. So I literally downloaded Photoshop and I was like, I think I can overlay her abstract paintings on top of photos of brick walls. And then we have what is, didn't know the phrase would be, a matte. And then I was like, okay, but my shot is handheld. And this seems long-winded, but it took 7 months to do 3 of these shots to just figure out what they were. Cool. And the shots were handheld. And so in After Effects 2D tracker, I had to download After Effects, learn how to use After Effects. And those are my first 3 visual effects shots. I think there's wound up being maybe 6 in the movie, but I was so obsessed by them because they were strange and people looked at them and they were like, what is this? What are you doing? Yeah. And I was like, I don't quite know. I think it's Going with the Wind, but it's handheld. I don't know. And whatever that was. So I sent that movie to a bunch of filmmakers. I sent it to like Ben Zeitlin and the guys who made a movie called Bellflower years ago. Other just independent, low budget filmmakers, and was like, this is what I'm trying. The movie got into 0 film festivals, and it felt like it was game over. There was nothing really to do except like move back with my parents. And then when my parents were like, get the fuck out of here, like, go back to college, I was like, well, I have a van, so I'm going to drive this van around until I figure out what to do. So I was in my van, and someone who saw the circus animals, this movie, was like, we need like behind the scenes photographers if you want to come out to LA. And that's basically what started it. And at the time I was writing a version of The Wanting Mare.
Wow, back then.
And people knew I had the weird movie with the matte paintings that weren't matte paintings. They were like, I don't know, but great. You'll be on C camera, but we appreciate you being here. Yeah, literally. That's actually not even true. The first camera job I had on the first movie I was out there with, there was 5 cameras.
So you were E-camera.
You were 6.
I didn't even get E-camera because somebody hacked the 5D. Do you remember when the 5D?
Yeah.
And somebody was like, we don't know if this is going to get footage, but you could just get your own shots. They literally just gave me a camera that they didn't know if it would work. They were like, you can just see what you get.
Stay out of everyone else's shot, please.
Yeah. And I was like, this is it.
This is it. I've made it.
Yeah. But that movie, this is a whole tangent, but that movie is like was an 80s comic book fight movie.
Oh, wow.
I spent like 5 years working on this movie, which is a different story. Okay. But there was like David Arquette and Paz de la Huerta and like Don Fry and all these like old UFC fighters and sort of just incredible larger than life characters. So the 6th camera that's this big, they'd be like, we got a stunt. Why don't we put that kid in there with the camera? So like I wound up just sort of being in just an assembly of the most dangerous places you could probably be on a set.
Amazing.
Like, I don't know if this is going to get any footage, but yeah.
Yeah, but you learned.
You survived.
And that was it. And you met new people and you were on set. creating shit and just being part of a team. And even if you were the sick man in the by-the-side team, you were getting stuff. And I think that's, that's fucking great, because it's so hard to get in there. It's so hard to come to New York, right? How the fuck are you supposed to start? We take anything when we start, and you should. To an extent. Yeah,
and it doesn't matter who you meet. Like, it could be any crew position. You could be doing something that you don't want to do when you're starting out. Like, you just don't know who you're going to meet that might have another project, and then you'll be doing exactly what you want to do on the next thing. And it came in the most random way. So it's about being open, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I ever made a resume. I realized this recently. Someone said something about, like, did you send your resume around? I was like, what's a resume? I was like, I don't think I've made a resume. I probably made a fake resume at a certain point to be like, I don't know. Somebody said they got it, but it just constantly was like, I don't know. I got very lucky. I literally moved to New York with $500 and met one person who wanted to make movies, who also only knew one other person who wanted to make movies. And then that's enough. You know what I mean? But the real goal for me always was like, how do you get around these people? And it's funny because at the time I was like, these are genuine adults and they have life figured out and they're just at the top of the game. But in retrospect, they were sort of my age or younger now, and kind of being like, oh my God, we're, fighting for survival every day.
Isn't it funny? But I was... How we look at that, how we look at other people we think are ahead of us and we go, God, that looks so far away and unattainable. And then we get there and then we look back and we look at those people and thought, God, no, they were actually really struggling and they were just clinging on to survive. Yeah. And I think that's a good thing for us now to even look further ahead. And for those who are starting out and looking up, it's doable. It's fine. Don't think it's too far away and out of your reach. You can get there and you can do it. And these people aren't gods. They're just people trying to get by and make movies and try and make anything.
And there's something to either the empathy or anxiety of it, which is that, like, nobody, literally no one is like, I'm great. Things are great for me right now. I'm like totally relaxed. Like everyone is like, I don't know. I made this move. Like, does anyone care? But,
Yeah, but you're there with the sixth camera underneath a horse that's coming to land on your head. Yeah. Happy days. I'm totally relaxed.
I'm in a Camaro with David Arquette, just driving 90 miles an hour. He's like, what is this fucking kid doing in the back with this still cameras pointing at me? It was very sweet, by the way.
It was very sweet. That sounds brilliant fun. And from there, did you then you obviously then carried on learning the VFX side of things and, After Effects and trying to get your head around that even more and making more of your own shorts, because you made a lot, November, Salvatore, August, The Fires Howling.
A lot of those are ones were just groups of those people. And they were like, we need an editor. We need this. And, The Fires Howling is one I actually directed, which is so funny. I have not talked about this at all. This is a really great story in a way. But the visual effects stuff came up because, there were, as you could already tell, 5 other people edit on camera and like 5 other people editing and 6 other people who could do this. And well, there was not anyone else who could do visual effects. And with my 6 visual effects shots, I was like, you know what? I can do visual effects, which I had literally no concept of how to do any of this stuff. But there was a pile of hard drives and there were movies that had like very loose flux release dates, as in no release dates, essentially. And that allowed like me with, someone who was like very comfortable either living in a van or on people's couches, which is what I did for the better part of a decade, just to do that setup, with the computer. So I worked on basically doing visual effects on other people's movies, not good visual effects, like a bunch of very terrible visual effects that I like wake up in the middle of the night and be like, I can't believe I gave this to someone and was like, yeah, this is done.
But were they happy at the time?
I think so. I think it was like, but I can tell you they were always strange visual effects, which is an interesting thing. None of them were like, this is how this is supposed to be done and it looks good. Which is how I kind of have arrived at the way I do stuff, is that like the idea of realism was never even, I never even entertained the thought. Right. So it wasn't even like all the stuff that I was doing was like an art project. So I was like, oh, I'm just making something that looks pretty. And I'm trying to figure out a little bit of that I understand about the technology. How do I do this to make something pretty? Now, this became a problem when someone was like, hey, can you do one visual effect shot that is just like what they consider to be invisible visual effects? I'd be like, yeah, I got no idea how to do that. I can make the sky purple in a really interesting way.
And if the sky's purple, you won't even see the person anyway.
Exactly. And so the fire's howling is funny, and literally what you just said is accurate. I'd be like, everything's always very dark, and there's a bunch of things that are just like completely messing up the image as much as I can. But the fire's howling came about as another funny instance where it was like, it felt like I had been doing stuff in visual effects, and people were like, oh, we're like excited about Nick, and he wants to make these weird sort of fantasy-esque movies. And I acted in a movie that is really sort of the only movie I've ever seen, aside from maybe The Green Knight now, but like the only real movie I've been a part of that felt like I was like went to a film festival for, and was like people were seeing it and then like enjoying it at a level that I was trying to make my own movies. It was the same year Short Term 12 came out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I met Lakeith Stanfield because he at the time was like, I'm an actor in this movie Short Term 12. And, you know, he's incredible.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And I was living on my dear friend Clayton Ledoux's couch in Studio City. And Lakeith was coming into LA to try to get an agent and manager and doing auditions. Yeah. And I was like, and Clayton was like, we need to make a short. I need footage. I need like audition footage. And I was like, amazing. I need to make a short. And I was like, we need another actor. I was like, Lakeith, let's get Lakeith in here.
That's amazing. Wow.
Which is like, you know what I mean? Unbelievable to think now. And so we made this thing that was a really interesting, really, really wrong direction. Which is me being like, okay, there's the 6 matte paintings of the circus animals that we made in 2010. This is now like 5 years later or something. It's like, what if we did that, but we made it like really dark and scary? And anyway, it just like is all of the worst, all of the opposite choices that you would make if you were trying to make good choices. Aside from Lakeith.
So rebrand cult classic.
Yeah. Aside from Lakeith and Clayton and Bailey Borders and Dakota Goldor, like the actors who were in it were all fantastic. It just was, everything I did was just unintelligible and strange. But it was an incredible learning experience because it was like too far to me in the direction of, I don't even know how to describe it, but it wasn't really like when I like go to bed and sleep and like have 5 core thoughts about like my dreams and subconscious and the things that bother me. It was about none of that. Right. You know what I mean? Just never a good place to be if you're making something. And to be very honest with you, there was like people who were like, oh, we're like very excited about Nick, and you know, we're going to try to submit this to Sundance. And people who had been to Sundance were like, we're going to, and I like really thought I was making the thing, you know, and it just was not good.
Right. Did you know that? Did you know at the time though? I mean, looking back, it's easier to say.
I did. I mean, it was like immediate. It was immediately sort of like,
right. Yeah. This is not
the level it should be. And I mean this genuinely. I'm not like literally only because of me. Like David shot it. Cassandra was the production designer. Like Lakeith Stanfield, Clayton Ledoux, like fantastic actors. It's entirely me making all of the wrong choices. I did the same thing. I submitted it for a while and kind of did like different cuts of it over about a year or something. Still never got into a single film festival. So I kept working on these other people's movies, and kind of this is like when it got the darkest, I think, of me being like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get to do this again, and how is this ever going to happen? And and somehow I guess I don't even know, but a few years after that, I had my fill in a bunch of ways of working for other people for no money, and was like, I think you're doing this wrong, really. You know, I kind of was like, I don't like the way you're doing this in terms of the responsibility of getting people to work for no money on movies. You know, there's like, you got to take care of people if you're going to do that. and you have to like work really hard. And I didn't really feel like that was happening. And I felt like I was being taken advantage of, to be honest.
And that's never a good thing. And it is something in our industry. It does happen a lot. And like you say, it's fine if they look after you and make you feel wanted and important and part of that team that, hey, we're trying to do something good together here.
Right.
But if you're not and you feel like this is icky or you're being pushed out or you don't feel part of it, then you're working your ass off for someone else, technically.
Yeah.
And you've probably not got even any showreel from this. Then yeah, you're totally right to go.
Strange.
I'm not doing this anymore, right? How did you get out of that? How did you stop that ball rolling? Because it's difficult when you're in that. You just someone else then asks you, and someone else, of course, because you're doing it for nothing, and suddenly your name gets around as the guy who'll do it for nothing. But
that was my life. Yeah. People would call, and then I would just snap at people.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Dude, what the hell's wrong with you? I just called. We're friends. I just want you to make a movie poster. I'm like, I'm not making movie posters anymore. I want to make a movie. They're like, all right, man, like chill. It's not a bad. All right, I hope you make a movie. But
so what did you do? What can you remember? Was there a specific moment apart from shouting?
Pay me.
Yeah, just went pay me. Big sign. Work for pay only.
Man, I had so many just insane jobs during this period of time. But people I was working with, I thought that they were going to be an instrumental part of me making my movie.
I see. Okay.
And there were sort of conversations around like, we can help you do that through these people and these companies. And I know so-and-so, and he wants to make movies, and how exciting that would be. Mm-hmm. And so I spent about 9 months maybe on the few off hours. I mean, I'd be working on these movies sort of like literally 12, 13 hours a day. And then a couple hours at night, I would, work on the Wanting Mare, and I would be making these concept designs. Mm-hmm. And my hope and intention was that these concept designs were going to be given to these people. And it just sort of kept delaying and didn't happen. And then at a certain point I was like, this is never going to happen. These are never going anywhere. And none of these people know I even exist. I'm sort of just the guy in the back room.
Yeah, that's the thing, that you get to these situations where you want it so much for it to happen and for this break, that when someone tells you that they can do it, it's very easy to get, hooked in on it and think, yeah, sure. Okay. That fair enough. That excuse, or all right, maybe if I just do this, then it will happen. Right. And if you string a couple of those people together, you've suddenly wasted like years of your life. And it's such a hard decision to really sort of be honest with yourself and the situation. Like, okay, is this person actually going to help, or, are they capable of helping, or is it just to sort of benefit them? Yeah.
So once I realized that, and I was like, I can't do it anymore. Like, this is beyond unreal. I mean, yeah. And so I used that material and I made an Indiegogo, and I put the Indiegogo out, and Indiegogo raised $20,000. Wow. And two important things happened. One of them was a producer who was a producer on the movie that I've been working on for years.
Right.
Never talked to once. Actually, I talked to him before we started filming because I was the behind the scenes photographer. And he was like, here's what I want to get in terms of behind the scenes, kid. And I was like, all right, great. Like, taking notes. So he calls me again like 4 years later to be like, Nicky, baby, like you're working on this movie for years.
You're a draw winner there.
yeah, Nicky, baby. We all went, oh,
you
God.
Never tell me you got this movie that you want to make that looks like this. Why don't you call me? And I'm like, I don't know who you are. And he was like, well, just send me the script. And like, we don't need to do this Indiegogo thing. Like, the Indiegogo is great for press, but like, I really want to make this movie with you. I sent him the script. He's like, I love the scripts. And he's like, we're going to do this. We're going to make, a version of this movie. I'm going to hire you to make the movie. We're going to option the script. And, it's going to be at least $2 million budget. And
wow.
He's throwing all these famous people names at me and everything. Yeah. And so I'm like, I literally have like $80, and I'm like trying to figure out how to make this movie. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. And he's like telling me it's all going to happen. Basically, when he finally actually sends the contract, it's to option the script. And he would, the option he has, I forgot the specifics, but he would have the option for years. After a year, the rights like revert back to him. And he basically is the person who has, he's the person who's financing the movie. So if he doesn't finance the movie, he could just sit on it for 2 years and then own the script.
Yeah. Oh God, so wrong. Yeah. No.
Obviously, he's buying the script and then he's hiring me to direct it.
And he's hiring him. Okay.
Yeah. So I wrote him this letter an email that was like, at the time I was like, this is the email, the defining email of my life. I was like, everything in my world is like kind of connected. Like it's all one sort of big fictional place. So like, I can't really sell you this, because he kept referencing Jason Blum, which is a great reference of being like,
sure, yeah, drop that name in.
yeah, like this is how this works. Like, I'm going to put a bunch of money into you making a movie. And of course I'm going to own the movie, but then you get to do whatever you want if the movie's good. And I was like, I get that. That's a great model. And like, amazing. But like, I'm not.
But are you?
If I had a bank heist movie, this would be perfect to be like, or like a one-off sort of thing that I'm like, this works as a perfect little thing that I don't ever need to come back to. And I didn't. I was like, I don't have any idea that really fits the model. So I was like, even if we could maybe 50-50, like on this, like it would mean the world to me. And he sort of was like, instant change, where he basically was like, you're going to make it really hard for yourself if you ever want to try to make movies again, but good luck.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you just, you know everything you need to know about him by that reaction.
Yeah.
It's so strange why people do that. It bothers me. And obviously if they put all the money in, that's part of the contract that the name becomes under their banner, but you're also a part owner of it, but they own it, right? That's totally fine. But it's just the bullshit that comes. Well, okay, if you're going to own it, the money has to be in the account. You can't own it and not. This is an option.
The good thing is that this gave me an ability. Take the $20,000 from Indiegogo, go back to northern New Jersey where David was and all of his friends and network were, and say like, I'm not making this up. Like, I've been around people who make movies, and here's a guy who makes movies, and he thought this was exciting enough to try to just completely screw me over it. And then people were like, that's actually like a pretty good pitch. And so that is how we made the movie, is like raising $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 little chunks from like small business owners in New Jersey.
Amazing.
But all of it was the first third of the movie. The section of the movie that I'm in, we shot first with like 6 people with $30,000.
Right. Okay.
And then we took a year to be like, okay, how do we put the rest of this together and try to raise more money and bring more people in? And
how amazing.
So when you were kind of talking to these business owners, was it like, we'll offer you a bit of marketing, or we'll help promote your business? Or was it more like, just invest in this because it might do something?
No, they were just like, it was that. And there were 3 things. One of them is, which I still believe, like the sense that the movies are all tied together is like a really good bit. You know what I mean? Because it's like, if I ever get to make a movie on like a really large scale, like in some way, an audience would be like, oh yeah, this is like a series of movies. And so that's one. That's a good investment. The second one, it was the visual aspect of like, we think we can make something that looks way more expensive than it is. And then that we just use a basic structure of 50% owned by the investors, 50% owned by the production. I gave all of the production, most of the production ownership away to people who worked on the movie because I couldn't pay them. And then, 120% goes back to the investors. And at a certain point, if we reach this golden afterlife, the rest of the money goes to everyone else. But they were so genuinely just like, this guy's making a movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm so excited about it. Like,
yeah, making a movie. I love that. Well done. How did you, because one of the hardest bits is doing that, is getting that little chunks here and there and building it up, because you need to do all the paperwork. You need to do it properly, right? Yeah. And it's really difficult for creators to sit down and go, shit, I need my business head on here. Because I've done it now a few times, and that first time was like, Jesus Christ, this is insane. Once you've done it, you go, oh, okay, I get it now. Right. And technically you're just saying exactly what you said. That's what it says on the bit of paper. But I went through lawyers, and lawyers cost a fortune, and it can be a bit of a nightmare. How did you find that process, and what did you learn from it that you'll take going forward if you have to ask for money again?
I mean, it's something that was it's a motif now. It's a leitmotif in my nightmares. Really, something normal will be happening. Somebody will be like, wait a second, where's my contract? And then I'll be like,
shit, that's true. Yeah.
But I had to, it's like Google, like, how do you start an LLC? That's like the first step of it. You Google, how do you start an LLC? And you make an LLC, and then you get an EIN number, and then, like, just discovering this stuff as you go along. And I didn't use any like lawyers or anything like that. I literally got contracts that were off the internet.
Good for you. Yeah. But totally, yeah.
Got to take those templates.
Those templates. Just be careful sometimes, everyone.
I did do one thing, which I I think I've talked about it before, but it is actually the only reason that the movie happened. It's the most important part of the pitch, was that I came up with, and it was only because I had heard someone else say this on one of these other movies I was working on, is that they had a budget cap, that they couldn't raise more than a certain number. And they were always like, oh, this budget cap is ruining our lives, because otherwise we would just keep raising money for years. Which is, absolutely what they would have done had the budget cap not existed. And so I was like, hey, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to tell everyone this. I'm going to tell all these New Jersey guys this and be like, there's this thing called a budget cap, and they don't want you to have it, but I want you to have it. Because like what I'm telling you is you're not going to give me $5,000 and then somebody's going to dilute that investment to a point where it's like meaningless,
worth nothing.
Which is I was like, if they believed my pitch, they would then say, which they are all incredibly smart, they would all then say, so what makes me think you're not going to make half of this movie? Go back to these people in LA and like cut a better deal, and then I'm going to just own nothing. I said I couldn't raise more than $175,000, which is, I was like, there's no world in which I'm ever going to raise $175,000. So like, sure, let's make it $175,000. Yeah. And we raised it up to and exactly $175,000.
Wow.
But, well done. I mean, I literally spent 10 years trying to get someone to give me like $2,000 to make sure I couldn't do it. And so like, whenever I say that we had $175,000, I start sweating. I am like, if I'm listening to this and I'm 18, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. Who's going to find $175,000? Yeah. And it really is like a process of like multiplying. Like if somebody gave me $30,000 at the end, that is like 10% as hard as someone giving me $1,000 at the front end. Mm-hmm. And it is like a real confirmation bias thing.
That's such a genius way to approach it as well, because usually when people approach investors, it's like, we need something from you, we haven't got enough. And you're actually approaching it psychologically from the other way, which is basically like, you'll be lucky to get in because we can only put in this much money. So it's actually very clever. I can really see how that would have worked in your advantage.
Yeah, I'd be able to say like, if you put this much in, you're going to own no less than 2.4% of the movie. Yeah. And that, just to be able to say that was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, makes people go, oh, okay, what? And so I get that back first before you get anything. Great. Yeah. And they see your passion for it, and they see what you've done in the concepts you've done and go and buy into it. Where did you find most of them? Like, would one lead to another, one investor lead to another, or were you literally knocking on doors?
No, most of it was through David, who produced it. And he knew a bunch of, small business owners who were sort of in their 20s or early 30s, who then knew people that they work with. And then like at a certain point, once we got over this hump of like $45,000, $50,000, then it was like the network was big enough and nobody wants to invest alone. So people just start bringing their friends in. And like the ones that I have nightmares about are, it's like, we're about to shoot and I need $15,000 in like 3 days. Otherwise, like I can't buy food for everyone. Shit. And like somebody like texts me, my buddy Tom is coming by. He's in for 5,000. And I'm like taking it. And then I'm like, did we get who is this? Like in a year later, I'm like, who was that person? Do I have his information? Which I do. But
yeah, you're right. Suddenly they're the nightmares. You wake up and go, did I send all the paperwork? Oh my God, have I just overlooked them? Are they cursing me?
It's just an act of sheer willpower, isn't it, really? And it becomes a collective sheer willpower because everyone gets invested in the idea that this is happening past a certain point. And then it just literally has to happen and everyone believes it. And then miracles happen like your buddy Tom.
Yeah. There's no version of the movie that would have ever happened unless I was like, we're doing this at this point and I'm wagering my life on it. And I don't have the ability to do it. But like once it's all about setting a date. You know what I mean? Like we made the movie on the East Coast. And so like I had to pack up my Jetta at the time and drive to the East Coast. And was like, we're driving to make this movie. And like, we didn't have the money to make the movie, but at that point, you got to make the movie. So
if you build it, they will come.
Absolutely, Dom. Yeah. I love that. And you said you also shot in sections as well. So you shot in, so you spent maybe 30 grand on the first bit of it. So now you've got something to show as well. So you're editing and cleverly you're working out whether you meant to do it or not. Now you've got a chance to go, okay, well, what do I need to tell the story better when I come back to reshoot this? What do I need? Actually, that bit of green screen didn't work or that bit of prop didn't work as well, right? So you've got that whole time to develop your story even more.
And I definitely wouldn't have, I think I had reached the critical mass of fundraising at around like $40,000. I don't think anyone would have given me any more money unless I was like, I have something to show you and I'm not making this up. Like my goodwill was maybe worth 40 grand at that point. And they were like, so to be able to say like, this is happening, all these people are in it, look at the stuff I'm doing. But like the other thing that I always say, like when I say the movie took 5 years to make, the first year of it was literally me making the trailer. I did not have the technical ability to finish making a trailer to show an internal trailer to raise the rest of the money on top of $40,000. And I was like, this is, I felt like my joke I made before is I felt like Elizabeth Holmes in like the Theranos thing where I was like, I don't even know how to finish this trailer. How am I ever going to finish the movie? You know what I mean? Like it's taken me a year to do 20 visual effects shots that are 2 seconds each to cut a little teaser.
Right.
How am I going to do this over the course of a movie? And like it just keep pushing and like learning. And
you must have been going through like existential crisis in that whole time and doubts. And like you said, you even then said there, how am I supposed to do it? But yet now you have, and the Wanting Mare is like I said, absolutely gorgeous and stunning and so brilliantly put together. But yet like not that long ago, you were saying, how the fuck am I going to do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you get over again those moments of absolute what the fuck, how am I doing this? How did you force your head to go, I need to do it? What was it apart from this drive within you? But was there anything physical you did as well?
No, I mean, part of it is I'm lucky that like I am a deeply obsessive person. And like my mental health crumbles if I go a day without making something. Like I physically have to, it's like a function of my behavior. I have to wake up and make stuff, and whether I like it or not. So like me having this thing that was like, this is all consuming was the only way that it could have, like if I was sort of touch and go with it, I would have never finished it or never done it. It was like, the office that we made the movie in, which is not the warehouse and the behind the scenes. It was Dave's office, is the office I lived in for 4 years. So I built a shower in it and lived in there. So I basically went from one warehouse in Los Angeles for someone else's movie to be like, oh, here's an office. It was a beautiful office though. But like, there was nothing else in my life, but this movie. So, and my dog. So it was like, that was it. You just kept going. And at a certain point, there is security in how much you've personally invested in something, which was the end of the process, because there's the beginning of this is all sort of like the thrust of excitement and opportunity. And, like there's gold in the hills, but the end of it is, there's no gold in these hills and no one likes this.
There's pain in the hills.
Yeah. This is a bunch of lead.
Let's tell our audience what the movie is about and we can play the trailer.
The Wanting Mare is about a fictional city called Whithren. And this city is in a constant heat. And once a year, there's a ship that comes to trap and transport the wild horses of Whithren to somewhere across the sea. And the story centers around this line of women who live north of the city who have a dream that is a recurring dream that is kind of like a family secret between mothers and daughters. And Moira, who is the main character that we are following, wishes to get rid of this dream and to go on this ship with the horses to this other place, sort of like a Casablanca, letters of transit. So she employs someone that she has met, a young guy, to help her. And it is about how this relationship and this dream kind of plays out in their time together.
You're gonna have a dream. You're gonna have it every night.
Moira.
You can't tell anyone.
Moira. It's me.
I want a ticket.
She couldn't tell anyone, but she told him. I'll go. Will you come with me?
before here. All of it. There's magic.
Moira. I'll come back.
It is amazing. I wanted to talk to you about directing this, because this is amazing behind the scenes of this movie that you have. It is 100% worth watching this, because you'll be amazed. Watch the movie first and then watch the behind the scenes. Link to both will be in the show notes. After you watch the movie and you see the behind the scenes, you go, oh right, they're just in a room. Oh right, you've shot all that on there's not even a green screen. That's just, you're just a wall. There's
White
a girl
wall.
walking over a bit of a table, and what? Yeah. And then you produce this absolute beauteous magic within the frame and what you're doing and the storytelling. I find that fascinating. How did you, for one, not only get your actors to believe what you wanted them to see in this world, but also convince your crew that this is going to look good, guys. This isn't just a table and a black wall. I don't know. It'd be really good to talk us through your thought process and how you managed to, get your whole team involved.
Well, it changed in the stages, and I was able to kind of play a different part a little bit, literally as well. Like, I'm obviously in the first section, I'm acting in it as well. And essentially majority of those scenes are Jordan Monahan and I, who, were intensely close and had known each other for years and were deeply part of like shepherding this movie into existence. So we were a real team. And probably the only person that I could have acted with in those scenes was Jordan, because she also was able to say, like, one of the stories I like to tell a lot is in the in the scene with the stairwell where we find each other. This is like the third day of filming. And I was like really worked up about it and worked up for the scene and was trying to do it the best I could and felt very good about it. And she's like watching from the top of the stairs, and she's like, just like kind of has a sour look on her face. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? And she's like, you're going to do it that way? I was like, what do you mean I'm going to do it that way?
Wow, she's done it.
That's such a horrible thing to hear, isn't it?
And I was like, I don't know. And then like we did it again. And so like, so much of that early stage was a real openness, and everyone was that way of being like, you want to shoot it like this, or do we want to put the light like this, or do we want to, like, it was like a real, I mean, it was only really like 6 of us,
Right, yes.
So it's Cassandra, who's who was the production designer, Dave Ross, Zach Schaefer, who's the gaffer. Dave and him grew up together, and then Zach and I did most of the visual effects. Jordan, so like it was a very, very, very small group. So we all were like, no one was like, I shouldn't say anything, or like no one was also like, this is this person's job, or this is this person's job. So that was great, because otherwise, in any other form of me like posturing in a way, being like showing up, being like, I'm directing this, it would have been impossible. Like, it had to be. But at the same time, like, that openness was also like an inverse reflection of the openness that I felt like I left with disdain. So it was like, we can do this. This is hopefully the way to do this, with like a lot of care. And we didn't know if it was going to work. There's more practical stuff in that first section than the rest of the movie, because I didn't know if it was going to work. And New Jersey, Boston, a little bit of Baltimore. And then we rented a van and drove to Nova Scotia and got an Airbnb. And that's the house that we're in that first third. That's just the Airbnb. So that gave us, I knew if we had like bits of us walking around in a real place of real water, your eye would be like, I guess, I don't know, that's real. So like, whatever. And then moving into the next section, it was different, because the joke we kept saying is like, we're going to have to get adults here, guys. Like, there are adults in this movie, and adults are going to come look at us doing this. And like, we have to be prepared. So the whole rest of the movie we shot in 4 weeks, and we shot it like a real movie, with a real schedule and real call sheets and food, and brought people in. We added a producer named Jeff Walker, who basically was like unit production manager / producer, just like running the whole show, while it was happening. When you bring in actors who are professional actors, like the older Moira and Lawrence, are professional actors who have been in a lot of things and have very different acting styles. And, you know, I cannot begin to wrap my mind around the feeling of being an actor like them and showing up in a warehouse in New Jersey, which you can only shoot at nighttime because of the sound. So you're in this place at like 5, that whole behind the scenes where we're in the warehouse in New Jersey, it's like 5 a.m.
Right.
And I'm like squirting them with glycerin and they're like, what am I doing here? You know? So like, but they really genuinely, you know, went for it. And then Edmund, who is the actor in this middle of the movie, was one of my oldest friends. And then his scene partner is a woman named Yasmin Keshtar, who plays Ira. It's on the poster. And she is a painter that Cassandra went to college with. So everyone had a very different style and a very different sort of sense of wooing that was required to get them to come stand in front of the blue screen.
Yeah, you're like, believe me, this will look good. Believe me.
Right.
And, but like you say, you had stuff to show them so they could go, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's it. It's the visualization, isn't it? You can show them something to give them faith.
But the theater thing is like so huge because that was like the only way that I could understand it and relate it to other people, which is that like for example, like when people are like, you know, it's really hard to stand on a blue screen, or it's like, it's a lot easier to be on a real set, which of course it is. But at the same time, like no theater actor in the world is like going around being like, you know, it'd be really great if this wasn't in a theater.
No, you're absolutely right.
You know what I mean? Like no one's like, you know, I really would like to do the Crucible, but not like on the West End. Like it would be much easier
at the Crucible. Exactly. Yeah.
And I suppose a lot of that comes down to you communicating with them, like what the characters, you know, wants and needs are and what the story is, and for them to invest in that rather than in the background.
And also the plate shots, you know, the stuff that was to go behind. Any of it made up from real footage, or was it literally you creating it in the computer?
So technically there is, of all of the digital work in the Wanting Mare, aside from 4 shots, which are cheating because I did them after, really, I should have been doing them, which is that I did them in the past probably 2.5 years. But like the real core of 95% of all the visual effects in the Wanting Mare is 2D. And so this is like really important because there's no 3D environment to the Wanting Mare, which means there's no 3D lighting. There's no 3D like camera match moves. All of it are 2D matte paintings made in Photoshop, brought into After Effects, and then tilted at angles. That's it. So even like the ground in some instances, there's no like geometry to the ground. It's a flat plane of a painting of grass in Photoshop that I have overlaid footage of moving grass. And then that just gets like stretched out in After Effects. Wow. So that creates a couple things. One of them is it was the only thing that was possible because I didn't really know how to do anything in 3D at the time. And like Blender in 2017 is not Blender now. Like I wouldn't have even been able to do these things in that way. And thirdly, that is such a strange, constricting process, especially on that scale of that many shots, that's why the movie, I think, looks so cohesively strange and different, because it's all with one very, very specific process that like really should not be used to do what I'm doing with it, which is all to say that all of it looks very, you know, painterly, because it is like they're literally all like digital paintings, and I'm just like tracking them to the footage and being like, how do we do this? And literally less because of design. I wasn't like, this is the style that fits the movie. It's no different than the 6 visual effects shots in like 2010. It was me being like, this is the only way I know how to do this. Yeah. So it's very, there's like 3 shots in the movie that still are not tracked properly and still do not look as they should, because the camera has tilted too far beyond what it could tilt to get away with flat planes. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that technically in your mind, that must be just when you're filming that as well, constantly thinking about that, and the effort of then trying to make it work afterwards and being frustrated. You're going, damn, we tilted too far, and going, I'm either going to have to live with it or reshoot. And you know, obviously the indie film.
And you didn't reshoot.
We didn't do any reshoots, which is a whole other thing. I think I've been thinking about this lately as to why I did not, like, certainly there were things that I removed from the movie or that took me a year of headaches that I could have just reshot in theory, but it would have been impossible to get everyone, I just other movies I've been a part of just did endless reshoots.
Yeah.
And I just despised them. And I think on a level I was like, I will not reshoot anything. And I sort of have a weird reverence to like the performance of when it happened.
Yes.
Too much so. Like I'm aware I have to get rid of this feeling, but I sort of am like, this is what it was, like I can't, it would be weird to come back and be like, fix your hair up. And I'm going to have an insert of you saying a line that works better. I just couldn't get myself to do it, even though it probably would have been better. But which is to say that all that stuff that was like make or break VFX wise, there was we never got an alternative.
Right. It's fascinating. It is fascinating because it's a different headspace to mine and Dom's, I suppose, to how we've made movies and you're making movies in this way, but it's still a fantastic way to make movies and really inspiring and interesting. Could you just really quickly tell us the difference, for those people out there who don't know, not me, the difference between 2D and 3D?
Giles doesn't know, just to clarify. This is an honest question from Giles.
Would you like to explain, Dom? Oh, Dom doesn't know as well. Great.
Well, I'll give you my explanation. It's the difference between the X and the Y axis and the X, Y, and the Z axis. That's a legitimate sort of explanation.
That still means nothing
but
to
Nicholas
me.
can explain it a lot better.
Please.
Yeah. So 2D and 3D means, okay, if you're watching Game of Thrones, the dragons in Game of Thrones are 3D assets.
Got you.
The word really is an asset. The cities are 3D assets. So if the camera is like moving down a street, that street, half of it is going to be digitally extended with an asset that has 3D, that has four sides. So it has a front building, side building, et cetera, which means that it's lit also. They're 3D lights. And then there are textures, which have to be textured appropriately to be like, how shiny is a brick as opposed to how shiny is dirt? Like the little things like that you have to replicate. Now, currently, because of video games and the advancement of technology and cell phones and all kinds of stuff, there are what's called photo scan assets. So if you have Unreal, you can, in almost seconds, you can import 3D assets, which are someone didn't make, but they are generated from photos of real objects. So I could get a telephone pole that looks exactly like a telephone pole because it is taken from a real telephone pole. In 2015, that did not exist. You had somebody's 3D video game version of a telephone pole, which is as good as it could be. Some of it could look fantastic. Other stuff is just like, you're never going to get that level of detail that a real telephone pole has. So that now the difference is you need 3D assets if things in the foreground of your scene, you're getting perspective on. Now, if things are in the far background, like if this back wall behind me,
is it real?
It's real. If your camera always stays there, that wall is always flat. So if I know there's never going to be any perspective on that wall, that means I could, in Photoshop, paint a version of a wall and just put it behind me. There's no 3D assets there involved at all.
Like the zoom filters.
Exactly. And, so the Wanting Mare is entirely, there are no 3D assets anywhere in the Wanting Mare, which means every angle, I've looked at the angle and a flat painting has been made in Photoshop to fill out that angle. And then it's been just pushed in space to be like, I think that's where it would move. Maybe it's moving too far, it's moving too little, which is an insane way to do that. Those are called digital matte paintings, but no one really uses digital matte paintings aside from like one-off giant specific shots, so.
I love it. They did bits of it in Blade Runner, didn't they? It was new at the time, even though they built this. And now people don't really use matte painting anymore because they can do everything in 3D by the sounds of it now in post, VFX wise. Is that what you were doing on The Green Knight as well? Because obviously you got to work with David Lowery on the fantastic Green Knight.
So The Green Knight is kind of a step between. There's always going to be stuff that you're going to want to do as digital matte paintings that are flat, because then you have total freedom to, I can add a photo of I can cut a real photo of a telephone pole out and stick it in a flat matte painting, as opposed to like making a full 3D telephone pole. You're just very limited by it. When there are instances, it's really great. You can employ it artistically. For example, like the reason why that initial Lord of the Rings series, certainly the Fellowship of the Ring looks the way it does, is because it has a ton of digital matte paintings in it. Because similarly, 20 years ago, they were having a hard time. They didn't have the ability to build all this stuff in 3D.
Of course not that much as well.
So they put somebody in Photoshop and be like, take a couple photos and put those photos together and then draw over it. And then this is our thing for this shot. So the Green Knight came at a point between, processes for me. So I sort of had been maybe, like the year before, 2 years before that, I had been in Blender like every day trying to learn Blender, which now I've been in Blender every day for, I don't know, 4 years or something. So, and so half of the Green Knight were stuff that were some of the stuff was like the castle shot. That was like a big thing for me because I could have never dreamed of doing a shot like that. That's an entirely 3D shot. There's no like 2D painting of that, aside from some of the textures that you wrap around the castle. And then there's tons of shots in the Green Knight that also are kind of quick and dirty. We wanted it to look very strange, so we did the painted process. And then the Father John Misty video from this fall is entirely 3D. There's no flat assets in at all, which is the first time. And so now you can understand the difference in 2D is that like, there's also no lighting. You know what I mean? Like it's a painting. So someone's not able to be like, move that light, So the Father John Misty video, all of it being an actual 3D space, those are actual 3D sets and they have textures. I was able to give Dave layouts of each of the sets and be like, here's the camera moves. And Dave would be like, okay, can we put a spotlight here? I'd be like, yeah. And he'd be like, all right, cool. Can we flag that light off? And I'd be like, I guess so. And then we did that. So he was like, okay, cool. I guess I'm lighting the thing.
Was that like a real learning curve in terms of the lighting side, or had you already sort of got experience in lighting to a degree?
It's somewhat, it's kind of been part of the whole process, though, I've been all like any of the 3D stuff in the Green Knight, like I was lighting and a lot of my concept designs are built on 3D, under paintings basically. So I'll make it in 3D and light it and then draw over it, which is how most matte paintings even come into existence now anyway. But on the music video, working with Dave was really eye-opening because it was the first time actually we've worked that closely, like in a 3D space together. And of course he came and did a bunch of stuff that I would have never thought of. And I was like, wow, I've never even used this setting of this light. And it's the first one. He's like, can we get the light to do this? And I'd be like, oh, and it looks so much better. So, really exciting. I think that's probably the future.
To work with David Lowery as well, as you were coming at that time, you're trying to, I imagine you were making the Wanting Mare, or it was around that time where you were hopefully wrapping it up. And then the Green Knight sort of came your way. And this is, huge movie. How did it come your way? How did you manage to get it? Or did you do anything? Did you just show your work? It's always interesting to know how people get those jobs. And I know you obviously worked on loads of other films, Free Solo, Topside, etc. But be really interesting.
The only one that was before that really that was like a proper was like Free Solo, and the stuff I did on Free Solo was like pretty minor. I think Save Yourselves. The post producer for Free Solo is this amazing woman named Keaton Mayakara, and I talked to her yesterday. We had talked in a couple of years, and we're trying to work on something again together. And I was like, you're the first person who actually like gave me like a job, basically. Like for a studio doing visual effects. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, no one had actually been like, and I told her, I was like, and I didn't even know, you never even told me what it was. And I just thought you were sending me like someone's GoPro footage of them climbing. And I was like, what is this psychopath doing? And I'm terrified of heights. And I remember her telling me, hey, this is like very private. Like she basically was being like, I'm not sending you an NDA, but in my mind, I didn't know what that meant. So I was like, what do you mean? Like, this is someone's for home footage?
Home footage of just climbing. What do you want me to do?
And then she was like, hey, you have to send me an invoice. I was like, what do you mean by that? She's like, an invoice. Like, how much did this cost? And I was like, how much do you want to pay? And she's like, what are you talking about? Send me an invoice.
I love this conversation. Hope it was on email as well. What do you want to pay? What? I don't know. What do you want to pay me?
Yeah. She was like, I don't know. And I was like, who do I make it out to? She's like, National Geographic. I was like, what? What do you mean National Geographic? She's like, yeah.
And price has just gone up.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, I was like, oh man. I was like, I think I literally charged like $100 for like per shot.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Well, at the time, it was like, anyway, but
just take it. But yeah, exactly. But then that led on, I suppose, to the Green Knight in some way, right? Obviously, you said you've still never had a resume. You've still never written up at CV in English, or in England, we call them. But yet you still got the Green Knight, you know?
Yeah. I had just been so I had people just knew I was like, I think that sort of class of independent filmmakers, they were like, he's the guy who's been, because I really had,
he's the $100 guy.
Yeah, he's the $100 guy. Get him in.
And it was like a circus act where I was like, it was like my bit, you know, it was like I'm like a cabaret like dancer with spoons, and I would like run around for a couple of years being like, I'm making this Wanting Mare movie, and people were like, oh God, the Wanting Mare movie, the guy's back with the green screen Harry Potter movie.
Yeah,
and I'm
with
like,
the title no one knows. Yeah,
and they're like, what's the title? Oh, your title's The Wanting Mare. Cool. Okay, great. Yeah. And but David knew about it. And David is like, you know, he watches like a movie or two a day, even if he's like filming a movie. So
David Lowery.
Like yeah, he's a real hardcore movie obsessive. He's seen everything and constantly says, hey, have you seen this? I'm like, no, I haven't seen that, David. But so he sort of knew, I guess, about the movie and knew, because I had been talking about it for years, and his producer, Toby Hallbrooks, someone had told him about it, I think. And it had just like come up in conversation. And they were like, oh, well, our release date got pushed because of, you know, COVID. They were supposed to be at South by Southwest, and they had 3 shots that Weta didn't finish. One of them was the plant coming up right before the Green Knight comes in.
Oh, amazing.
Which, as now you understand, is a fully 3D shot, and it requires animation. And so Toby was like, called me, which I was like, oh my God, Toby Hallbrooks is calling me. And he's like, hey, we're here with the Green Knight. And I'm like, had seen the trailer already, you know, and was like so excited for it. A24 fantasy movie. And he was like, you think you could finish this shot? I was like, I honestly do not think so, but I will try. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, this is like not what my movie's like, literally the conversation we just had. I was like, my movie's like matte paintings. This is like animating and lighting a plant that's going to be close up. And like, also my movie's like anamorphic, and I put grain over it and blurred it. This is an Alexa 65.
Yeah, you can't really hide that, can you?
Yeah. I'm like, I just started thinking about it. I'm like instantly like, oh my God, this is going to, anyway. So I did that shot, and it somehow worked out very well. And David was like, well, you want to try to do more shots? Because he felt like he didn't really have the time to finish the movie. He, you know, like in a way that to play around with it, he made it very, you know, with great speed. And A24 saw the couple shots that I did, and they were like, well, all right, I guess you can unlock, but they obviously would not have had the money to go back to Weta and be like, can you redo this? So they sort of were like, well, let's see what he does. I don't know. Because it costs money to open those reels up, because they have to re-sound design them and all that sort of stuff. So, and he just kept going, and we just kept adding stuff. And so it's like a once in a lifetime opportunity, because it was just myself, him, and Presley Impson, who was the assistant editor for like 6 or 7 months.
Wow.
And he'd be like, you know, in that, I think that visual effects breakdown online has like a quick cut of how the castle shot started, because he was like, you know, one of the things is that it wasn't fully like Christmas movie yet, because there wasn't we added snow basically over the whole first third of the movie. And then Daniel, the composer, went back, and he, you know, David was like, I think we can make it really Christmassy. And then Daniel started writing this stuff with like the Christmas bells. And then David was like, what if we had a long shot of like the castle? And then he shot that on his cell phone with the Lego castle. And I was like, David, whose Lego castle is that? He said, it's my Lego castle. I was like, all right, cool. Sweet, man. He's like, I love this Lego castle. I was like, it's a pretty sweet Lego castle. And he was like, yeah, what if this was the shot? So that was what he cut in his timeline. He also
Lego castle in. Right.
He cut in the Lego castle and like told A24, like, yeah, we're going to put a castle here. And they were like, okay, man, I guess. But I mean, the thing about it, which I'm always saying, is it was like astounding to find someone working at a level that, in my experience at the time, was beyond anything I had seen. And they were doing it in a sense that felt smaller than anything I had ever worked on, and with like great specific care. Like I had worked on movies that were like $700,000 movies where like the directors wouldn't talk to me. Like, you know, like 6 months before that, where they'd be like talking to me, giving me notes through someone else. And then I would like, you know, and I'd be like fighting for like, can you give me a credit maybe? And then they'd be like, well, we can't give you that. You know, it's like a, you know, whole different ballpark. And then David shows up and David's like, you know, I'm going to give you a visual effects supervisor credit with, you know, the guy who made Lord of the Rings. And you know, as you're, you know, not above the line, but like as a company.
Yeah, who's getting first billing on that? How much do you appreciate me?
From the team that brought you, the fire's howling.
Yeah, just don't let anyone see that. And so he showed up like a real fairy tale prince, where he just like sort of was saying, him and Toby. I remember Toby called me one time and Toby said, it was the sweetest thing. And I constantly telling Toby about this now. He called me. He's like, hey man, and Toby's like very anxious. He's like, I just want to tell you, like, you know, I want you to put your bid in for the rest of these shots. And we have another company who's going to also bid on it, but we're not calling you because you're going to do it cheaper. Like, we want you to do it because we think you're the best person for it. So like, you know, just charge whatever you want to charge, and like, we're going to figure it out. And you're the guy who's like going to do it. And I was like, no one has ever done that. And then like after 2 weeks, maybe of working on the movie, Toby just called me. And I was like, oh my God, Toby Allrook's called me. My fiance was like in the other room. She's like, call him back. I'm like, call him back.
He didn't answer it. I love it. I ain't answering that. Fuck you.
And I was like, I'm going to get yelled at, or I did something wrong, or blah, blah, blah. And he was like, I was like, what's up? He's like, oh, nothing. What's up with you? And I was like, nothing. What's up?
You called me.
Yeah. And he was like, oh, I'm just seeing like, how's it going? I was like, you mean like personally? Like, what are we talking about here? And he's like, yeah, just like, do you need anything? Like, is it going well for you? Like, you know, how's it been so far? I was like, it's going great. He's like, cool. Well, if you need anything, just let me know. And I was like, okay. And I was like, oh, this is why David is so successful and why people love working with him, and why his work is good, because he cares about people he works with. And, you know, so it was like this
nothing more important than that.
Yeah, on like a bunch of levels. So, and then we worked on Peter Pan and Wendy.
I'm
still working on a little bit now. And
that's so cool. Huge congratulations. You know, what a journey. What fascinating. And the Wanting Mare is just a delight. It's gorgeous to look at. So everyone do go watch it now. And like I say, watch the behind the scenes. Like I said, you've given lots, but maybe some advice for someone now who's starting out in VFX or in, you know, wanting to be a director. What would you say to someone who's, you know, eager and excited, but just can't maybe get a break?
Well, first, I spent so much time reading people's biographies when I was younger, directors' biographies and actors' biographies. And it felt like a riddle to me to say, like, how do these people do it? And if I read enough of these biographies, I can find a through line and plot the course, you know? And you get some of it, you know, you get fun anecdotes out of it, but it's funny when your life begins, you're like, oh, everyone's path is completely different. No matter how much you try to, of course, correct it, you go where you go. The only advice I think I ever have at this point, especially if you're making stuff with smaller groups for no money and like in oblivion, which is always in a way where my mind is that you should have a group of people who you love deeply and take care of them deeply. And also, like, I always wanted the Wanting Mare to be, for those couple people involved with it on a deep level, to look at it and say, like, I did this, you know, like you can gobble up credit so easily, and it's really hard not to, but it, like, any good thing that has happened to me has probably been a result of saying, like, hey, do you want to split this? Or, hey, do you want to say you're in charge of this? These are, you know, David, Ross, literally, like, nothing would have happened had I not really deeply been loyal to David. Because there were times in LA where people were like, I'm a DP and I have money. If you want to make a movie with me, and Dave's like in New Jersey and we're like talking about the movie. And I'm like, that's not right, you know? And of course, in many ways, and Cassandra, who sadly is not with us anymore, which has been a whole deeply challenging process. You know, these are people that, and Aaron Boudreau, who wrote the music, these are people that I've known since I started to try to make things, and they are everything, you know, like the movie is about them as much as anything. Like, these are the people and the things that are around you when you're making things become the work. You know, you can't really like make something in a setting that's something else. And, you know, like it all seeps into itself. And I don't know, I think you're just as good as the people around you, and treat them well. So find a tribe is the phrase I think people say.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer of that.
How nice, and what a beautiful way to end this. So cool. Thank you so much. I mean, this has been fascinating.
Really insightful and honest, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So really, really cool. Are you on socials? Can people find you on the social media?
I have an Instagram for the Wanting Mare, which is just the Wanting Mare. And then I have an Instagram for the visual effects company. That's just Mare Studios.
Yeah, great. I'll put links to those in the show notes, and it's MAERE Studios. So yeah, follow and say hello after you've watched The Wanting Mare, and then give it great reviews everywhere, because that's what it's about. It's not about that at all. I just said that, don't mean it. But it is part of it. It's nice.
Keeping the whole conversation there. Like, an hour and a half just undone in one phrase.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, listen, at the end of the day,
it's about social media.
At the end of the day, I don't care about anything else you've said. Just give it great reviews. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
this
Nicholas.
honestly has been amazing.
oh, you're so welcome. This is just a joy. Let's please keep in touch.
For sure,
yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
You guys go out there and do exactly what Nicholas has done here. You can do it too if you want. You've got a vision and you want to make a film this way in 2D, not 3D. If you want to do it in 3D, you can do that too. And go out there, and if you rise up and do well, it is your duty to send the elevator back down. Dom Lenoir, thank you.
Thank you, Giles, and thank you, Nicholas.
No, thank me. That's great. Nicholas, thank you for your time, Nicholas. You've been an absolute star. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks, guys. I really, really appreciate it.
Take care, everyone. We'll see you next Tuesday, as always. Bye-bye.